Now, with regards to exercise number 2 in simultaneous interpreting, exercise number 2 is to do with transcribing and sight interpreting, or sight translation as it's known as well. Let me just explain something before we carry on, which is what's called output and input. The input is known in simultaneous interpreting, or in interpreting in general, is what you listen, what you hear in your ear, when it goes to your head and then you produce it. That is the input, what comes into your head, what you hear. And there's the output, which is what you speak, what you say. So you hear what they say, the input, and you output in another language. In the case of the video before, which is exercise number 1, I said to you it's shadowing, where the input is the same as the output in terms of language. In other words, you are listening to English and you're speaking English. That's called shadowing. Now, exercise number 2 is relating to actually a different kind of input-output. Because what's going to do in exercise number 2, I'm going to split it into 2 parts. The first part is that, of course, you choose the video. And as I said, it can be 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long for now. Of course, you start with 5 minutes, then you improve to 10 minutes, then 15 minutes. Usually 15 to 20 minutes is the maximum for simultaneous interpreting in a conference interpreting. And that is according to the UN. So when you start with 5-minute video, for the second exercise of this video, of this particular recording that I'm doing now, the second exercise, is that you listen to the video and you transcribe it. You have to transcribe it word for word, verbatim. Means you don't miss anything. If he's going or he's saying half of a word and does not complete a sentence or whatever, you have to say it exactly. You have to transcribe it exactly the same way. So you write it down on a piece of paper, transcribe what the video is saying. You have to be a very good listener. Make sure you don't listen and mix words like 15 and 50 in numbers, or 14 and 40, or 1959 or 1995. In other words, the numbers. Make sure that you pay attention to numbers when you're listening. And that is not only for this exercise. It's in interpreting. Numbers are a nightmare sometimes for the interpreter. So sometimes I use a pencil and a pen to write the numbers. Very, very important. Also the names, sometimes it's a nightmare to know what are the names that's being mentioned in the speech. And of course you can tell about the names by the preparation that you do before you go into the booth and do these conference interpreting, because you've read a lot. You've read the papers, you've read the TV and what the media is saying about this conference and what is being printed and published by these speakers and and articles that they've written. So going back to this exercise, which is exercise number 2. So you first part of exercise 2 is to transcribe the video. In other words, to write the video exactly what the speaker is saying, verbatim, word for word. And as I said, when you choose the video, make sure that you choose a video where the speaker is in front of the camera, the way I am now, and not behind the camera when they are speaking. Because if you are behind the camera and speaking and you are trying to interpret, it's going to be very difficult because you don't know what the speaker is saying. You see the difference? Now the difference is you have to keep an eye on what the speaker is saying. Facial expressions, hands, and so on. So these are important, actually, to have a speaker who is in front of the camera, speaking in front of the camera when you get in this video that you are going to be transcribing. So you transcribe the video, whether it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. You transcribe it word for word. You pause and write it all down clearly, not written in a very messy or speed. You have to make it extremely clear. You can type it. Once you finish transcribing the video, you put the video aside, you take that, you print what you have actually typed or transcribed, the script. You bring the script in front of you and you start interpreting, you start recording your voice. So you look at the transcript, sentence by sentence, you look at it and you output, in other words, you interpret into the language that you want to interpret into. So if it's English and you want to do it in Arabic, you start speaking in Arabic what's written in English. That is called sight interpreting or sight translation. So you speak orally, okay, you output into Arabic, for example, what is written in English. That is called sight translation or sight interpreting. So for example, if he says, I suggest that you do this, that's written on the script, you say, وَأَقْتَرِحُ أَن نَقُومَ بِذَلِكَ. And then you carry on reading the sentence by sentence or clause by clause, and you interpret them or output them into the language that is the target language. That is the second. You do that for the whole video, from the beginning to the end, you non-stop, and you carry on doing that until you finish the whole video, the whole script or transcript that you are reading. But when you are reading it, you're reading it in English, but you are outputting it in Arabic. In other words, you are translating from written to oral. That's called sight interpreting or sight translation. I hope that you have benefited from this and from explaining to you this second exercise in simultaneous interpreting.